Whoo! Thought for a moment there we were going to lose 50-1, but I didn't play it. Tom, how you been, man?
I'm doing okay.
So tell us, we got a lot on tap this week. A pretty good weekend of racing, Irish racing at the Curragh. So what are the what's at stake this weekend, Thomas?
We have the Guineas for the fillies at 3-year-old fillies, and we have the Guineas for the 3-year-old mares. Males.
Yeah, male
and
horses.
that's the equivalent of the ones that were just run in England in terms of 1 mile race.
Mm-hmm.
And they're considered classics.
So they would be comparable to what in our view over here in the U.S.?
It's hard to say for a mile race.
Mm-hmm. Well, just in terms of the significance.
Well, you're looking at the Kentucky Derby. These are, that kind of level of importance, because these are the classics, and there are generally have breeding in considerations involved, and also that they do not allow geldings to run those male races.
Now, any of these horses candidates to see in November? Breeders' Cup
could be.
All right.
Well, could be in the mile. I think there's a couple in there that Aidan O'Brien's got a couple that you could see over here, and Dermot Well has one too that looks pretty good.
I'm looking at the camera right now, and I have this giant head. I feel like, there's a band, Big Head Todd. I feel like Big Head Rich right now. I don't know what I did with the camera. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the weather, because right now, Tom, you can see he's watching the races.
I am watching the races right now.
20-1 and 50-1, and Tom just hit the 13-2. So big prices are coming in at Curragh, where the track right now is listed as good. If we take a look at the weather,
and good to firm in places, so it is definitely. And they'd expect no rain this weekend, so I'm going to go right with that and say we're going to have a pretty fair playing track.
I think we're going to have a good to firmer track, because if you look at the weather on the screen, you'll see nothing but sun in Ireland. So there's not going to be any rain to see in there, and should get a firm course, Thomas. So in the case of a firm course, we're going to start off. So we're doing races on Saturday and Sunday. So we got 3 races for Saturday, 4 races for Sunday. The first race on Saturday that we're going to entertain you with is race number 2. It is the Gain Marble Hill Stakes.
And this is your favorite type of race.
Oh, yes, the 2-year-olds with one race. This one's going to go off at 8:55 a.m. Eastern on Saturday morning. So put that in your iPhone. Make sure you set that alarm to go off at about 7. I'm going to say 8:50 or 8:45 a.m. Eastern. So you can remember that the Gain Marble Hill Stakes with a bunch of 2-year-olds are going to come out and run 6 furlongs. If we take a look at the Curragh track at 6 furlongs, Thomas, it looks like they run here. They run backwards, go up a slight rise, a slight fall, then it gets level, and a slight rise in their backwards journey to the finish line.
Yes, and so far the outside horses have been doing, the grandstand side horses have been doing the best.
So when we look at grandstand,
and they've been coming from the back.
So looking at the picture we have on the screen now, is the grandstand to the bottom or towards the top?
Yes, the bottom.
Okay. So the horses that are more towards the bottom would be, and that would be the outside posts then?
Yeah. High numbers.
High number posts, not necessarily high number. So unlike the US, they don't put horse number 2 in the 2 stall. The horse number 2 could be in any stall. And from horse number 2 is actually going to be in the first stall. So probably a pretty bad post position based upon what you're seeing today. But take us through your picks for the Gain Marble Hill Stakes for these youngsters.
Oh, yeah. And there's always that possibility we may see one of these horses pop up at Royal Ascot. So keep that in mind when you're watching this race. And with that, I'm going to take number 5, Nacha Magica, is my first choice. It has draw 1. It raced Cork for its first start. It dwelt at the start. It sat in the rear and came on and went by everybody. And the comment was impressive. Well, yeah, I watched the race. I would tend to agree. It had an inside draw there. I think that this is in the center of the course again. So it'll be interesting to see how it's playing, because the outside's been playing a little better on those 6 furlongs, of course. But these lovely 2-year-olds, the rail helps some of these 2-year-olds run a little better. And it's something that you have to consider when you're looking at the races. The trainer is doing really well. Pat Toomey, he's at it right now at a 27% strike rate, and he's sent out 2-year-olds at a 33% on the turf rate of winning. So he's
their version of Wesley Ward, eh?
Yeah, well, no, that would be Aidan O'Brien.
Well, Wesley Ward having these
positive ROI, and I think this horse has really got a nice chance in this race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take number 2, Democracy, as my next choice. That is draw 5. One first start on the heavy going at this distance, 6 furlongs. He was with the leaders in the race, and when he was challenged, he continued to move forward. I went off the favorite in that race, and this is an Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore horse, and I would not be surprised if this horse did well here. Well, you'll see it at Royal Ascot. And finally, I'm going to take number 4, His Majesty, who has draw 6. On his first start, 5 furlongs by 3/4 of length, and it was over Valiant Force, which is in this race too. And this one, unlike Valiant Force, had a very adventuresome trip, to say the least. With the leaders, ran green, went left. It's 2 furlongs, but kept going, went to the outside. It was, it was a lot of fun.
It was all over the joint.
Yeah, it really was. This is Aidan O'Brien trained 1, 2. The difference is between the first 2 I talked about and this one is this one actually ran in a listed race first time out and won that.
For me, I have the same 3 horses in my first 3 picks, just a little bit different order. I started with Democracy. First time out, it was a 1-to-1 favorite. It ran at the Curragh, so it has some experience over the track, and it won kind of easy. I think that experience is what separates it from Noche Magica, Magica, the same one that you have as your first pick in there, Thomas. As you mentioned, the start was slow, and then the horse came on, and it really won with ease with a pretty good 5 furlong time. So if it gets off to a little bit better start, it might be a little bit difficult to hold that one off. I also have the 4 horse, His Majesty, as next up on my list. As you mentioned, another Aidan O'Brien run there as well. It did win its debut. It was also well bet. I just wonder if it was well bet off the Aidan O'Brien name or if it's a good horse. I'd expect it to run less green in its second race. And then finally, I think the longest shot, at least on the board right here, the 1 horse, Buyin. If you look at the 5-weather, they ran its debut on the all-weather track, 5 furlongs. And if you look at the time, did 5 furlongs in about a minute on the nose. It's a pretty good time for a 5 furlong debut horse on all weather. And if he can turn around and do the same thing on the turf, the horse would be pretty difficult to contend with. And I think when you get the firmer and good surface, I think the translation from all weather to turf might prove to be better. What do you think?
Possibly. The only thing I was a little concerned with is the breeding. And that suggested it may prefer the all weather.
Well, let's see who the predictor prefers, Tom.
That'll be interesting.
I think it's going to prefer the what's going on? There it goes. Say, come on now. Don't do me like that.
It's like ornery today.
It's like when you ask your dog to do a trick in front of people, it looks at you like you're stupid. All right, bam. Ooh, this looks like it's going to be a very close race. Well, Buyin doesn't look like he's going to be a part of that. But His Majesty does get the top spot there, Thomas. Noche Magica, going to be right there. Democracy, give me the beat, boys. Valiant Force, where is it looks like it's going to be a tight finish there at the end. It looks like we're kind of in line with our first 3 picks as to what the predictor thinks. Let's see what we think for race number 3 on Saturday's card, which is the Weatherbys Ireland Greenland Stakes. Again, they're going to run 6 furlongs to recap. They're going to start back here, a little bit of a turn, a little bit of a rise, a little bit of fall, levels out, a little bit of rise as they run again backwards towards the finish line. This race, Tom, is going to take off at approximately 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Who do you like to finish about a minute and a half after that in the winner's circle?
I'm going to take number 4, Garris, as my top choice, has draw 8. One last time out at Newmarket by a head in a Group 3 race at 6 furlongs. Went off at great odds of 9-1. Beat Comanche Falls and the favorite, Creative Force. Some pretty good horses.
Yes, I'm more familiar with those.
I tossed its Saudi Arabia adventure when it really didn't run the race. And in that race was Bathrot Leon, the Japanese horse, and Castle Creed, who comes from here.
Mm-hmm.
And those are pretty good horses. He's in form. He beat some good horses last time out in a Group 3 race. I don't know why he can't step up to a Group 2 and win that too. Number 6, Twilight Jet is going to be my next choice. It's got draw 5. Hasn't raced since July of 2022, but that was in a Group 1, and something obviously went wrong because it didn't run very well. It has won its first start. It won it at NAS last year in a Group 3. It was a 6 furlongs and did it by 3 lengths. Its final start of the 2021 season was in the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, and it ran okay, but not great. It's interesting. It's coming in fresh. It has won fresh before, and it gets a change of riders to one of the top riders in Ireland, which is Colin Keane, and I think you're going to get a decent price on this one.
Mm.
And finally, I'm going to take number 7, Ano Sarah, who has draw 6. It's going to be her first start since 2022 in September. But she has a really good record at the Curragh. She's got 4 starts. She's got 2 wins and 1 second. And she has beaten the boys before. Last year, she won her first start at NAS at 6 furlongs and ran really well the rest of the season with a really interesting racing, because she finished third, won 3 of them, got a second, and 3 fourths, which I find so running interestingly all along. This one prefers the good going, but it has won over the yielding. Guess what? It's going to be good tomorrow.
Yeah, there's no yielding coming, I don't think, unless there's some freak storm, which nobody's forecasting right now.
Nobody's forecasting it, so I think, and she's won over the good, and it's one of those you kind of want to put in because you're going to get a price, and if you just finishes second, you can really get a nice exact out of this one.
Especially if my horse wins. That's Moss Tucker. That's the one I'm going to go with, the 5 horse there. Look back through the record on the good surface, seems to be the preferred running for Moss Tucker. And last time out, if you look at the fractions, they were faster. So it's usually something I'm on the lookout for, because faster fractions usually indicates a horse that's rounding into form. Guineas, the 4 horse, I think that's going to be your big favorite, Tom. Right now, 3-2. That's what's the best odds you can get. As you mentioned, did win first up, and the resume suggests a better race in the second start after a layoff. And Ano Siro, the same one that you like, the young lady, at 16-1. You mentioned a couple of reasons. It has run well at the Curragh 4 times, 2 wins, and a second in there. Horses also perform well off the break and on a good surface. And I put it ahead of the 6 horse Twilight Jet, the one that you liked, in there as well, at a decent price. I think the talent is there for Twilight Jet. It shows up in the performances and the kind of horses it's been running against in the races it's been running in. It just hasn't shown up at the Curragh yet. 3 times out, hasn't failed to hit the board. And the distance also seems to be a struggle. 7 times at the distance and only 1/3. So it's going to have to improve its Curragh and distance form to really challenge, I think, the better horses in this race.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, what the heck? You might get better odds because of everybody's going to be looking at the same thing I'm looking at and saying, that horse hasn't fired at Curragh and hasn't fired at the distance. So let's give it some high odds. The predictor, let's see if the predictor pays attention to any of that stuff, Tom. Bam! Moss Tucker and Guineas as your top 2 right there. Oh, look at. Next up, you have Art Power, a horse that neither one of us have. It looks like Twilight Jet's right in there. Coachella and Ano Sira. So if that's the case, Moss Tucker, Guineas, I might get the exacta there, Tom, according to the predictor. I told you I was going to go straight off the predictor in our emails, but I didn't. I wouldn't do
well, based on the first 3 races today.
You have your doubts?
Maybe the way we should be looking right now, at least off those first 3.
We should probably go back at the end and look at the predictor if it's still there and see how it ranked relative to actual races that ran. The final race we're going to do on Saturday is the 2,000 Guineas. This one is going to be 1 mile on that track. And the 1 mile marker, Tom, is, I think, where do they start on the 1 mile?
Back up.
Up here, yes, up on the top of the hill. Yes, I see. And then they come up the hill, then down the hill, then a slight fall. They level out, slight rise as they make this L-shaped turn to the right. How does that L-shaped turn actually look on TV?
It's very subtle.
Okay.
It's not a huge. It's a sweeping as the main longer races are in that sweeping race. When we're going to have a few longer ones coming up the next group on Sunday.
So it's not a 90-degree turn to the right.
No, it's more like the old mile at Ascot, which they come out of that instead of going a straight mile at Ascot, they go to that old mile, which is up similar to Curragh.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a sweeping turn in and then comes in.
So this one's going to go off at 10:40 a.m. Eastern time, and when it's over, there'll be one in the winner's circle that won their version of the Kentucky Derby, or is this the female one?
This is the male.
So this would be their version of the Kentucky Derby. And then when it's over, who's going to be the one that would wear the Irish roses?
I'm going to take number 4, Gallinule, withdraw 8 is my top choice.
Looks like it's number 6.
Oh, number 6. Oh,
yeah, number 4 is Cairo.
Cairo, okay. I got the wrong one on here.
It's all right. It happens.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is. Had a great deal of trouble in the 1,000 Guineas at Newmarket. Went off at 150 to 1 and ran a credible 4th. Its first start of the year was a good 3rd at Newcastle on the old weather. It's won over this track as a 2-year-old. I don't think you're going to get 150 to 1 this time.
No, it looks like they're going to take a 0 off there.
Yeah, I think that's probably about the right number for this one.
Mm-hmm.
If it stays out of trouble, and it did get a great deal of it at the beginning, I think it's got a really incredible chance based on that performance of getting that 4th last time out. I'm going to take number 8, Paddington, as my next choice. Draw 3. Winner the last 3 races, including 2 at the Curragh. I should be right there with the leaders and finishes very strongly. That's a jump up in class from listed, but this is an Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore. Yeah, they win a few races.
Mm-hmm.
To say the least. And finally, I'm going to take number 7, High Royal, withdraw 2 is my final choice. It was a novice winner at Ayr, and then in the last race, there's another one went off at a big price, 125 to 1, and ran about 2nd behind the winner of the Chatterdine, who also had problems in the race before. It was only a length and 3/4 behind, and it was a very game run, putting it onto the lead, and really just couldn't keep that motion going. It hung a little bit at the end. It also hung left, so either it was tired or raced a little green.
Mm-hmm.
I like the draw with 2 on the inside, and the out would be the inside looking at it, but of course would be along the rail. And I definitely going to be in the front. And
mm-hmm.
Would I be surprised if this horse won? No, I would not be.
I wouldn't be surprised if the 9-horse wins, Tom. Proud and Regal, 6-1 morning line, 6-1 line right now. Does have a Group 1 win on its resume, and it's only run on a good surface a couple of times. Did well in both of those, and horse that does show it tends to improve in the second up after a layoff. Your High Royal makes my second selection, and one you wouldn't be surprised if it won. It's making our good friend Big Boopa, otherwise known as Charles, his favorite handicapping angle, 3rd after a layoff. And again, another one that looks like it's going to be happy with the sunny and warm conditions. Cairo, the 4-horse, is one that was Triple Crown nominated, if I remember correctly, Thomas.
Yeah. And he was a dud in Maidan.
But he's not been a dud on turf.
No.
if you look at him, he's ahead away, just a little bit in his 3 races away from being undefeated in 3. This is clearly the surface it wants to run on. And then finally, that 8-horse Paddington, the one that you like as well. So we have a little bit of crossover once again with Paddington and Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien again. This one is a winner of 3 in a row, as you mentioned. All 3 of those were on an off track, and the horse did debut on a good surface. And of its 4 races, that was by far the worst of the quartet. So I'm just curious, is this a horse that really prefers some moisture in the ground? And we're going to find out on Saturday in race number 5 if that's the case, Tom.
Well, I'm going with Ryan Moore had a choice of what horse to pick, and he picked this one.
Yeah, the funny thing is, when I've done that lately, it's not really worked to my benefit. It seems like the jockeys picked the wrong one too.
Yeah, you and the jockeys.
Yes. Let's see. Ooh, that one looks like it's an easy winner right there. Paddington, look out. Doesn't look like the predictor at all cares about the firmness of the ground. Royal Scotsman, a horse that neither one of us mentioned, is up there as well, along with High Royal. Proud and Regal in the mix. Cairo, way back there. So maybe I got a funny feeling that the predictor doesn't really look at the surface and how the horses run on the surface. I think it's just all math. What do you think?
I'm thinking math.
Yes, I'm thinking math too. Trust the math, Thomas. All right, so now we're going to move forward to Sunday. Sunday, we also have 4 races on the card that we're going to look at here, starting off in race number 3, right? 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's where we're going?
Yes, it would be the 245.
And this is the Tattersalls Gold Cup. It is Group 1, so a pretty good race in here. 1 2.5 furlongs, so a pretty weird distance. I'm going to guess the 1 2.5 furlongs. It starts back here because the only designation I see from 1 2.5.
That is correct. Yes.
Could be here too, but it looks like I'm going to guess back here.
No,
up down here
on the green course. It'll be on the dark green.
Yeah, but the only it's got to be here and then come on to the dark green, right?
Yeah.
Starting here, I'm going to make a right turn. Come down here, make another right turn. Couple of right turns, basically running in a U. Thomas, from this U-shaped race. Do you want to be forward, middle, back? Where do you want your horse to be?
I want to be behind the pack.
And then making its best strides late?
Yeah, and it is a small field, so it'll be definitely a tactical race for the jockeys.
One of those where position is everything. So
yeah,
who's going to get the best position and then come home the champ? And this race is going to start just real quick on Sunday morning at 9:45 a.m. Eastern. So go ahead and start with who you think is going to win this one.
Number 5, Van Den is going to win it. Draw 6. First start was an average run at Perry Longchamp, ran 3rd. Sat in the rear of the field and never looked comfortable is the best way to describe it. I think it needed that race. One of the top 3-year-olds in Europe. It won the French Derby last season as a 3-year-old, and it beat older horses like Mistress at Sandown a little later. Time off, average prep, ran 2nd in the Arc. Going to be tough to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's returned to form, and Christian Sommillon is coming over to ride, I don't think he's going to waste a day in France to come here to not ride this one.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, Bay Bridge, is going to be my next choice with draw 1. Ran a disappointing 3rd. First start at Perry Longchamp in a Group 1, but it was on the really very soft going. This is one that'll be up near the front. And moved to 2nd in this race, and then kind of went the other way. I think it just needed a little better going, and maybe needed a little better start.
Mm-hmm.
Adaria, it beat last year. Adaria just won a couple weeks ago at Ascot in October. So this is definitely a horse who has been improving. Ran 2nd at Royal Ascot. So it's a darn good horse. Finally, I'm going to take one of the local ones, which is number 2, Lafayette. Let's draw 4.
Bomb City. Well, not as good as the 6 horse, but halfway.
Yeah, not quite the big bomb, but
but still bombish enough.
Yeah, well, but this is a horse that's running at the Curragh all races. It's been in the money in all its races this season. It's run on soft going and heavy going, but its wins are on good to firm.
Things that make you go,
Yeah. So,
or did you just have a horse?
I think it's I think it's a better horse on soft going personally, but it has one on the good. So,
Well, before we got started, when we were in the back room, so to speak, before we went live, Tom made a very similar noise. And I thought, what, did you just lose? He's like, no, I just won. So you have to, when Tom goes, and it sounds maybe a little disappointing, it's actually opposite day. It's good news. So he's looking up now. So you'll know based upon the sounds he makes.
The 6:30 is about ready to go off at the Curragh.
So here for me in race number 3, while Thomas takes a look at the 6:30, I have Vandini as well, the 5 horse. Won 3 in a row on a good surface, so he's definitely going to get the surface that he wants. As you mentioned, Christophe Souminian coming in to ride this horse. I don't suspect he went there for nothing. Number 1, Bay Bridge in the money. So we're right on the same path here for the first 2, Thomas. In the money, 8 out of 9 on the turf. And he's collected a nice $1.3 million in earnings. So, he's been running against some quality horses in good races.
Couple good horses.
Yeah, just a few in there. Luxembourg, the 3 horse, is next. Here you go. Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore. That combination, they should collect plenty of money on the weekend while they're in Ireland. This one's won 2 of its 3 races at the Curragh, and one that typically does show that it can improve and move forward in race 2 off the bench. Actually gets a tip in here as well. So finally, Piz Battle, the 4 horses, my long shot, 25-1. Tom went a little bit longer with Lafayette. It's one that's run at the Curragh a couple of times, got a second, got a third. And I always like horses that are making their second or third start after a layoff. So typically do see improvement in that spot. The predictor is going to put, I think, Vandini as your winner, Thomas, but let's see if I'm right. Bang! Oh, Luxembourg, the easy winner there, Thomas, at 3-1. Vandini all the way on the rail behind Piz Battle and Lafayette. So looks like we can get an upset here, Tom, perhaps.
Very possible.
Yes, the predictor is going rogue on this Friday. Our next race for the predictor to go rogue is the Lanwades Stud Stakes. That one is going to go off at race number 4 at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. They're going to stroll 1 mile over the track. We talked about that already up here on this. Go up the hill, down the hill, round the bend to the finish line. Thomas, who's going to win?
I'm going to take number 3. Insuendo with draw 6. First start of the season, went a mile, Group 1, Group 3. Did okay. It won it. Then tried 1.25 mile race the next start. And for its second start, ran 4th. I looked at its record. And at mile distance, this horse has 4 starts, 3 wins, and a second. Why would you run this horse at any other distance but? I don't get that one. It's done okay. It's finished the money in some of these longer races. Yeah, okay. And she's won on the good going twice. I just think she's a miler. And there's nothing wrong with being just a miler. Because there's some darn good ones out there, like Modern Games, who won last weekend.
Then you can collect a lot. It doesn't matter how long the race is. What matters is the purse money.
Yeah. And my next choice is going to be Gold Ghana. She's got draw 1, number 1. Seasonal debut was at the Curragh in 7 furlongs. She won with authority in her first start, and she has beaten the males before. This is one that came from was racing in Germany previously and has switched trainers. And obviously, somebody bought it, and now it's in Ireland and won its seasonal debut. So you can't complain about that. But it's unproven in group company. It did win a Group 3 last time out, but didn't do so well over in Germany. But maybe it likes that nice, good, firm going rather than heavy, soft that you get a lot of times in Germany.
Maybe prefers the Irish cuisine over the German cuisine, although I don't think I would prefer either.
Well, it did well the first time out, so let's see if adding another furlong and a little slight move up in class here, see what it can do. Finally, I'm going to take Jumbie as my final choice with draw 3. It's number 4, seasonal debut. This will be a season debut. Raced only 4 times last year. Ran second in it last year in its first start. Then ran 2 races and then won in July at Ascot, and they put it away. She's been transferred to a new trainer, so this will be a first start for that. And this one may surprise, and that's why I got to put it in.
I'm going to start with Just Beautiful, the 5-horse, because it's just, and it got a tip in there too. This one really appears that it's the good surface or nothing. It likes the good surface, and they spent $900,000 for this guy. So imagine that they paid for some of the pedigree. I think you'll start to see that come through, especially on a good surface. Number 2, Honey Girl. This one is 3-1, Thomas. Honey Girl has run at the Curragh a couple of times, won both of them. Maybe a horse for the course because they've run the horse at 8 outside of the Curragh 8 other times and has exactly as many wins as you and I do when not running at the Curragh. Zippo. Goldana, the 1 horse. I think maybe, Tom, there's a chance that this German shipper could be underestimated again coming in from Germany, but did win the first time around in a Group 3 at the Curragh. So hopefully the bettors say, okay, fine, you showed me once, show me twice, and then the next time it's the 4-5 favorite when it doesn't show up. And then finally, number 4, Jumbly. I agree with you, Tom. I like the $900,000 horse. So I have to love the $1.6 million horse. Clearly the breeding is there. The thing about this horse, though, is it tends to run big and win big, or run bad and lose big.
And run really bad.
Right. So it's big no matter what, a big winner or a big loser.
But keep in mind, it did change trainers. So maybe they see something a little different.
Either that or it's just a temperamental horse, which I'm going to go with.
No, it could be.
I'm going to say the predictor is going to tell us who's going to win this race, and it's going to be bang, Honey Girl right there. That's my my second pick, which is kind of funny because, and then Just Beautiful is going to come in second, which is my first pick. And I was cracking a joke in the emails that I'm just going to copy the predictor. And right now it looks like I'm actually copying the predictor.
You're copying the predictor.
Well, hopefully this is the weekend for the predictor to be spot on, because that's what we're hoping for. 2 races to go, Tom, the next of which is race number 4, which is the 1,000 Guineas. It's going to go a mile again down here, up here, down around the corner and to the finish line, as we've talked about a couple times before. 1,000 Guineas. This one is for the fillies that are 3 years old, Thomas. Their version of the Kentucky Oaks, I would suspect then.
Yeah, it's a classic.
So what does the human predictor, Thomas, have to say?
I'm going to take number 7, Mediate, draw 2. Best description of her first race, which was in the Guineas race at Newmarket, was even. Mm-hmm. She ran 6th, but she beat 14 horses, but didn't do anything special. But the race before, going a mile, was at Keeneland in a Breeders' Cup race, and she won that pretty easily. So maybe needed a race. Last race was her worst race. I think she's going to rebound here and win. Number 1, Aspen Grove, who has an outside draw of 10.
40-1. Now we're talking to Tom.
Now we're talking, yeah. Maiden as a 2-year-old in a Group 3 race. Interesting. After 2 poor runs in maiden races at the Curragh. Interesting, huh? She Group 3 race was over the good going and at the Curragh. She stepped up to Group 1 company at Perry Longchamp and didn't show a darn thing, and they put her away. Then they came back for a start of the season. Leopardstown ran third in Group 3. Pretty good. But one thing about watching this race was she was wide almost the entire race and still ran third. All right. Well, take a chance. Number 9, Tarawa. My final choice. It is draw 5. Nice run for third last time out at Leopardstown in Group 3. Interesting race for a good start with the leaders, then dropped back to the rear, and then she made one run and did pretty good. She's only raced 3 times. So she's only got a maiden win in there. But I'm going to put her in the money because I think the last race was a learning experience for a big effort in this race.
Strangely, we both landed on the same horse up top there. In Meditate, if you dig through the past performances and single out the races on the good surface, there were 4 of them and won every one of them. As you mentioned, that includes the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Number 8, Tahira, whatever, right here. Tahira.
I'll go with
1 to 2. I mean, obviously the morning line maker thinks something of this horse. It
lot.
did actually beat and pretty handily Meditate when they matched up a couple of races back, but that was on a soft track. This is a firm track where Meditate seems to do better, and you got to try to beat that 1 to 2 favorite.
Yeah.
If not Meditate, then let's go with Jackie O at 12 to 1 as a shot to beat both of those horses. This one just looks like it's a miler on paper, as you mentioned, Tom. Some horses have preferred distance. Maybe this one is a miler. The only question for me is the footing in here. So far, the first 2 were on heavy. This one's going to be on good. Hopefully, she responds to the change in the footing. And then Tarawa, the one you like, the 9 horse, is also on my list. This one has the 4th choice for me. Looks like, Tom, she prefers to save her best for last. Unlike the Jackie O horse, who I think is a miler, I got a feeling Tarawa needs a little bit more distance than a mile.
Breeding does suggest that.
And it's also interesting to note that the horses run, taking a break, and then come back and run. This is going to be the first time in its 4-race career where the horses actually made it 2 races in a row without going to the sideline. So maybe this talented horse is finally healthy, and if that's the case, can show up. The predictor, is it going to show me to be a plagiarist again, Tom?
Possibly.
Bam! Meditate. Yes, indeed. And then Jackie O. And Tyra, my top 3. Yes, I have a computer in my brain, Tom. One that stimulates horse
in your brain.
It's because I do all those simulations for the show with Terry and Charles and myself, and now my brain just does the simulations for me. Final race we're going to do.
Tough to do a Excel spreadsheet on some of these races.
Yeah, there is some data that you can use, but the way I do things, I need like multiple races of data to create like standard deviations and stuff like that, so that I can then try to draw a trend line and then regression and blah 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 blah. Anyway, we don't want to have a math class today. 1 mile and 2 furlongs for the Heider family stables Gallinule Stakes. This one is a Group 3 that will start at 11:25 a.m. Eastern. 1 mile, 2 furlongs back here. It looks like up here. Boom. Down and around the bend they come again, running in a U. That means you get to make your picks now.
I do. And this is an interesting race because this is for 3-year-olds. And some of these could have been in that mile Guineas race, but they opted to go here.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'm going to take number 4, Pivotal Trigger, as my top choice, as draw 4. First start of the season was after its only win, which was a maiden win. That was last season. But after the win, they sent it to Perry Longchamp and ran 3rd in a Group 3 at a mile. Then they moved it up to a Group 1 at 7 furlongs, and forget it. So why did I pick this one? Well, Mom was a pretty good horse. She was a Group 1 winner, champion. She ran against the boys, and one of them was the Yates, among others. Those were really good horses. And the siblings have also done well. They've run at this distance up to 2 miles and won. And she's also got 2 jumpers there. And you know how far they run.
They run along.
I'm going to take maturity into account here. I'm going to take the hands of a top trainer. I think this is a nice spot for this horse, and I think I get a bit of a price. Number 2, Kingswood Test Draw 2 is my next choice. Won a maiden race at 10 furlongs. Other races were okay, but they were at shorter distances. Breeding says wants longer races. Guess what?
It's a longer race.
I'm going to put it in the money.
Ask and you shall receive.
And then finally, I'm going to take number 1, drum roll. Draw 6 is my final choice. 2 races at 1 mile, a win in a second. And it lost one of those races to Paddington, who is going to be one of the choices in that Guineas race.
Well, actually, it is the predictor winner.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see with Aiden Bryan. It's one of those, where do you put the horse? You put it in that, mile race for the fillies, or do you put it here? Breeding says could be a winner. Winners are from 6 furlongs to 1.25 miles. So it could be right in that wheelhouse. I still wonder about that decision, but he knows about horses a lot better than I do, because he's won a lot more races than I've ever won.
And it's a good check. So speaking of picking winners on the turf, JT Bruce says he had a decent day yesterday. Some Irish beer, but no Irish picks for today. He does have a couple turf plays at Pimlico, race 6 to 7, Heartburn. In race number 8, Cinque Amor. And then over at Gulfstream Park in race 4, number 11, Marpin. Belmont, race number 8, the 4-horse, Starship Loban. And race number 9, number 11, Hey Mac, It's Jack. So mark those down if you're betting at Pimlico, Belmont, or Gulfstream Park today. And as some turf horses to keep an eye on. As far as race 6, Heider Family Stables Gallinule Stakes for me, Thomas, I'm going to start off with drum roll that one horse. As you mentioned, horses run 2 times. The only one that beat him is Paddington, who's going to run in Saturday's Tattersalls Irish 2000 Guineas. And that horse had won 3 in a row. So drum roll. Only lost to some good competition, and the one that the predictor says is going to win that 2000 Guineas. Save Your Love is next for me, number 5. That one is going to have the nice pink on there. You got to like that as well. Save Your Love only finished a length behind Drumwell, 2 races back, won the following start, and I think this one's going to like the better footing in Big Boopa's classic 3rd start after a layoff. Kingswood, another one that you like, Tom. So we're on the same page with that one there. One last out was at the distance. It was the first time the horse had run for the year, so fresh after a layoff. The only other time the horse made it through a 2-race cycle. The second race was better than the first one, so we're counting on that horse repeating that pattern. And then finally, a Pivotal Trigger, the one you started with, Tom. I didn't know what to do with this one because the morning line maker thinks enough to make it the second. And just looking at the races themselves, the performances, except for the one win, were kind of blah. So there must be something to that horse that I missed. So I'm trusting the odds maker, to be honest with you. That's the whole reason behind that horse. And then maybe the predictor has it in there too. I don't know. We're going to find out in a minute.
We're going to find out right now.
Bang. It's going to be boom. Young Ireland. I don't think that's a name either one of us mentioned.
Nope.
That one's
finally, you're not the predictor.
Finally, yes, indeed. Well, it looks like drum roll. That's the only one in there we have. Kingswood is a name I remember. Save Your Love. Yes, I mentioned that one. T2Tates. Yes, that one too is going to be up in there. Another one we didn't talk about. And Mr. The band from the 80s, also going to be involved in there. So it wraps up our thoughts for Curragh on Saturday and Sunday. So we're crossing over both days on the weekend there, Thomas.
Oh, they got some big group races, so why not?
Well, and I think both cards for both days, if you want to be involved from beginning to end, are pretty good. I know the early races on both days, a lot of first-time starters in there. So maybe you might want to start where we started on both days and then move forward from the card from there before you get into the racing on this side of the Atlantic. What racing are we going to get into?
If you're a Royal Ascot follower, there could be some implications in some of these races of some of these horses. So take a watch, because Royal Ascot's coming right up. It's a month
a couple
away.
of weeks away. Yeah, about a month
Yeah.
away. Tom and I will be covering those every day. We're going to try to go live in the morning. We're going to get up early and be dumb and try to do it that day, the day of, so we can get scratches and be on top of our game. And then Terry and I will come on, and I will be YouTube ubiquitous, and everybody will hate me on Twitter, on YouTube and Twitter afterwards. But
no, you're going to be bombing at the stateside races, and you'll be running at Royal Ascot in the 29 horse fields.
Yeah, I'm glad to take a winner wherever I can find one. I'm glad to take one. Where can we look to maybe try to find and take some winners next week? Any idea what's on the calendar?
We're going to Epsom for the Derby.
So the Epsom Derby.
And the Oaks will be the day before.
So we will have some thoughts on that next Friday at about the same time. Rest of the weekend, we're all going to take off, get a little R&R around here. We can use some. We'll be back on Monday. It's going to be a packed show. It's going to be myself. It's going to be Charles. It's going to be Terry. Tommy, you're welcome to join us if you'd like to. We're going to do Belmont, and there's, I think, 6 stakes races on Monday at Belmont for Memorial Day. So we'll get together. We'll put our thoughts together for Belmont, make our picks like we normally do. Tuesday, we'll roll back into the same routine on Parks for Terry and myself. I'm not quite sure what the Memorial Day schedule, what things will shake out Wednesday and Thursday, but you'll be able to know what we're going to do if you follow us on our social sites below: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Horse Race, the number 2, and then Day. And then, of course, while you're here on YouTube, kindly hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so when we go live, thumbs up. By now, you know all the routine, but all the books say that if you don't ask, people don't do. So we have to ask for the order. We're asking for the order. It's one way you can help us without spending any money. All right, Tom, that wraps up this Foreign Friday. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Enjoy the Irish racing. It's a nice weekend of 2 days of some really good turf racing.
Yes, indeed. Well, we certainly do hope you enjoy the Irish racing and all the racing that you get involved in. And no matter what you're doing on this holiday weekend, we hope, first and foremost, you stay safe. Watch out for them crazy drunk drivers on the holiday weekend. So stay off the roads after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then from there, we hope, of course, that you got God's grace, God's favor, and that no matter what you do, Thomas, from now until we get together again, the winner's circle.
The winner's circle. And also remember what Memorial Day really means.
Yes, indeed. That's the key thing for the weekend on Monday, is to make sure you do remember all the sacrifices that folks have made so that we can do dumb things like this on YouTube. Yep. A fantastic weekend, and look forward to catching up with you again.